So this is what it looks like out here right now. Not exactly outside weather. But I got something else that we should really be doing right now. Something that also involves winter. Let's get inside. I'll tell you what it is. Why be out in that mess whenever we could be talking about Winter Thrice by Borknagar? And I told you there was a winter theme here, and that's the title of the album and all that. Yeah. It's a cute little play on words. Who really gives a shit? Well, we need to talk about this disc, this 8-track affair. Some places do have a 9th track, but we're talking about the 8-track version. And Borknagar is a super group. I mean, it literally is a super group whenever you consider some of the names that are involved in this project and have been involved on this project. Just to name one, as a guest vocalist on this album for a couple of tracks, they have Garm from Oliver. Oh, but guess who their actual twin vocal attack happens to be? And there's actually a third individual as well. But the two names that will definitely garner a lot of attention to people, of course, are ICS Vortex and Vintersorg. So yeah, you have gruff vocals that are cascaded around beautiful cleans from two different individuals that happen to be two of the very best in the business. And this is black metal that's infused with folk that has a little bit of progressive melody to it. It really has become its own thing. It's become its own real lifestyle, so to speak. So they're 10 albums in, I believe. There's a lot of Borknagar releases out there, so you have plenty to check out if this is your first experience, but if Winter Thrice is your first, you picked a fairly decent choice. The Rhymes of the Mountain, which kicks off this album in a near 7-minute fashion, is one that sort of encompasses the experience very nicely going into the title track, Winter Thrice, which maybe even describes it and showcases it, shows it off a little bit better. With the, rugged melody that is cascaded around the clean twin attack, it's something that showcases what this band is able to really behold to the world. And I have to say that the melody that you hear and the very faint differences between the vocal tones of Vintersorg and ICS can sometimes be a little bit difficult to pinpoint, but it's something that overall leads to very satisfactory results from a vocal standpoint. Adding the services of a gent like Garm, having a third vocalist at their helm with one of the other members, at some points in time having 4 total vocal tracks on some of these songs, makes this typical idea that you would get with one vocalist where you have an epicenter, like 2 flashlights or spotlights that goes straight toward the man with the voice. It now becomes one where that spotlight is on the entirety of the band. It gives it a choral effect, it gives it a majestic effect, and with weather such as what you just saw, albums like this only increase in value. Not just simply because of the winter theme, but simply because if you're staring out a window while listening to this, brother, your mind starts to run wild, your imagination starts to really take on a mind of its own, and you start to just envision these epic scenarios. Musically speaking, though, this is a solidly written album. Cold Runs the River, which is track 3, continues the the motivation, not to mention also the momentum that the first 2 tracks were able to carry into it, and then you get into Panorama, which actually has a bit of a strange vibe to it. I really enjoy where this one goes, and the very first thing I immediately think about whenever the name, or the word, rather, Panorama, ever comes up is Agalok in the Shadow of Our Pale Companion. If this grand panorama is, before me, is what you call God, then God is not dead. Great line from a great album. Agalok's the Mantle, one of the best of all time. But I love the way in which this album keeps its foot on the gas. It maintains the acceleration point very nicely. So you have these cascading rhythms that really plunge in and plunge over some, black metal overtone that then, with the added bonus of the clean vocals that are more so what you hear as opposed to the gruffs, then you get the scenes, the imagination, you get that sort of headcanon that you need in order to really create some epic feel. And the music really swirls nicely to cause that. The tri-vocal attack at times, a quad vocal attack, only enhances that. If you thought whenever we talked about Rhapsody of Fire last week that you had some real storytelling potential, either that or music that definitely felt like it was setting up some sort of high fantasy, this is an album that at times straight up feels like it should be out of fucking Game of Thrones or something like that. From the musical standpoint, it feels like if music such as this were used, perhaps the series would have an even more epic feel and take it one step further. I know I referenced that a lot, but the whole winter is coming bullshit, I mean, it's kind of recognizable, not to mention it can apply. So, what about the remainder of this disc? What about the second half? Songs such as When Chaos Calls or Erodin. We see where some of the different influences of these collective individuals come in, because you can hear a bit of the Arcturus or the Arcturian influence in some of the melody lines, almost as though whenever some of these tracks were being written, there was still a bit of a frame of mind that was left over from Arcturian from 2015. But at the same time, you can also hear some of the elements of Vintersorg's epic works, whether it be his own solo engagements or those of his other bands. But the principal songwriter of Borknagar, the founder of this band, with a clear-cut intention to try to take black metal and elevate it to something more, that is the tone, that is the idea, that is the hearkening point that continuously registers itself as you go through each track. Longtime Borknagar fans will not only recognize this tone, recognize this sound, but will also be extremely pleased with what they heard. If you're a fan of Erd, which was their last album from a few years back, then there is a good chance that Winter Thrice will feel right up your alley, as though all Erd was actually doing was merely preparing you for Winter Thrice. The album has a terrific flow to it. There are only few disturbances where I feel that the songwriting was a little niche, and either that, just a bit kind of hokey. Aside from that, though, this has a very epic feel, and all of the dynamic parts that come together in order to bring this epic ideal that really create and craft this very high-class album by Borknagar really helps solidify it as a solid, remarkable, and just enjoyable release. And that third word is actually the one that means the most, considering if a release is magnificent but not enjoyable, first off, how the hell is that possible? But it is. Then you really don't have a true and genuine connection with your audience and your listeners. But with this being just a terrific listen, an enjoyable listen, as well as being magnificent, it brings the whole circle together and crafts and creates an album that's very difficult to put down. It's almost like trying heroin for the first time and realizing your destiny was to be a junkie. 88 out of 100 for this disc. Was a very big fan of what Winter Thrice has to offer, as opposed to what Winter is offering, although I'm secretly hoping for 3 feet. That way it'll shut all the people up that are complaining, which ain't gonna happen because they'll just complain more, but I'll laugh. What did you guys think about Winter Thrice? Winter Thrice clearly better as an album than Winter Storm Jonas Brothers is as a storm. Yeah, they're naming winter storms now. They haven't for a couple years. It's kind of dumb. Let me know in the comments below what your thought process is regarding this album, what you think about it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are there things that you wish were a part of it that weren't? I am coverkillernation. I am going to continue on my journey of reviewing albums for you, because I'm not going back outside unless I absolutely have to. And I know a lot of people will probably say, that's not really all that bad, and you're right, it really isn't. It's not. It's all drama, but it's amazing to look at. I actually really enjoy, whether like you saw in the past 15 seconds, whenever it's just dumping in truckloads. That's just a little piece of me that you're getting. Let me know what you think about this album. Let me know what you think about this storm. Nah, don't do that. Just talk about the music in the comments below. I'll talk to you later. Coverkillernation, and I am out of here.